You're staring at your baby. They're lying there, completely still, eyes wide open, locked onto something across the room. You turn to look. There's nothing there. No toy. No light. No movement. Just a blank wall, or maybe a corner of the ceiling. And yet your baby is completely transfixed. Not blinking. Not moving. Just staring, like they can see something you can't. Most parents assume this is nothing. Just a baby being a baby. Spacing out. Zoning. Not yet smart enough to focus on anything real. That assumption feels logical. It feels obvious. And it is completely wrong. What your baby is looking at in that moment, and what their brain is doing while they look at it, will change how you understand this entirely. Let's start with what your baby can actually see. Because this is where most people's understanding breaks down immediately. A newborn does not see the world the way you do. Not even close. At birth, a baby's visual acuity sits somewhere between 20/200 and 20/400. To put that in perspective, 2200 is the legal definition of blindness in most countries. The world beyond 8 to 10 inches from their face is a blur. Colors are muted. Fine details don't exist yet. The retina is underdeveloped. The cortex hasn't taken full control of vision yet. For the first 2 months of life, a baby's visual system is largely driven by subcortical mechanisms, the deeper, more primitive parts of the brain, not the sophisticated processing centers you use to read a face or recognize a room. So when you look at where your baby is staring, and you see nothing, you are seeing the world through a fully developed adult visual system. Your baby is not. They are not looking at what you're looking at. They are responding to an entirely different layer of the visual world. And here's where it gets strange. Researchers at the NIH found that 3 things dominate infant vision above everything else. High contrast edges, motion, and faces. Newborns are not drawn to color, not drawn to complexity, not drawn to what adults find visually interesting. They are pulled toward the boundaries between things. The line where a dark wall meets a white ceiling. The edge of a shadow. A faint flicker of dust drifting through a beam of light coming through a window. To you, it is invisible. To your baby's brain, it is the most compelling thing in the room. A study published in Nature Communications found that the visual cortex of 4 to 6-month-old infants already contains regions that respond preferentially to faces and scenes, with a spatial organization similar to adults. And research published in Nature Neuroscience in 2026, scanning over 100 2-month-old babies with fMRI, found the categorical structure is already present in the brain's high-level visual cortex at just 2 months of age. 2 months old. Before your baby can hold their head up, their brain is already sorting the visual world into categories. Already building a map of reality. That blank stare is not the absence of thought. It is the beginning of it. But the vision science is only the first layer. Because what's happening inside the brain during these staring moments goes much deeper than where the eyes are pointed. In the first 3 months of life, a baby's brain grows by approximately 1% every single day. Every day. The brain is forming new connections at a rate that will never be matched again for the rest of their life. During this window, the brain can form up to 1 million new synaptic connections per second during moments of intense visual engagement. 1 million. Per second. And what triggers that engagement? Exactly what your baby is staring at. High contrast edges. Faint movement. The visual noise of the world that adults have long since learned to filter out. Every second your baby holds that gaze, their brain is being physically rewired. Now this is the part most people never hear about. Research has found that infant brains do not operate in a single mode. They alternate. They move between active sensory intake and something that looks, from the outside, like nothing at all. EEG monitoring of infants during these blank staring episodes shows something remarkable. The brain does not go quiet. It shifts. Brainwave patterns move toward slower frequencies associated with rest and memory consolidation. The brain is not switching off. It is switching gears. It is processing, filing, organizing everything it just absorbed. The stare you see on the outside is the visible surface of an invisible internal operation. Think of it this way. Your baby spends a few seconds absorbing a high-contrast edge, a moving shadow, a flickering light. Then they go still. Eyes soft, gaze loose, expression blank. That stillness is not emptiness. That is the brain doing the deeper work. Consolidating what it just experienced. Strengthening the connections that matter. Beginning, in the most fundamental sense, the process of learning what the world is. Researchers at Harvard have documented what is called synaptic pruning. At birth, a baby's brain contains roughly 100 billion neurons, approximately 15% more than it will ever have again as an adult. In the early months, the brain overproduces connections at an extraordinary rate, forming far more synapses than it will ever need. Then it begins to edit. The connections that are used, that are activated by experience and stimulation, are reinforced and kept. The ones that are never activated weaken and are eliminated. This process follows one rule. Use it or lose it. Every time your baby stares at something, they are casting a vote for which neural pathway survive. In the visual cortex specifically, synapse production peaks at around 8 months of age. The editing that happens in those early months is permanent. It shapes the architecture of the brain your child will carry for the rest of their life. What your baby stares at in these early weeks is not trivial. It is foundational. And here is where this gets serious. Because there is a version of this story that goes wrong. And most parents have no idea it exists. Staring is not just a sign of development. The absence of staring is a warning. Researchers have established that a baby who is not engaging in visual fixation by 2 to 3 months of age may be showing early signs of neurological concern. This includes conditions affecting retinal development, seizure disorders, and in some cases, early markers associated with intellectual disability. A baby's stare is not just curiosity. It is evidence that the visual and neurological systems are functioning. When it doesn't appear on schedule, that absence carries diagnostic weight. But there is another warning that is even harder to detect. Because not every blank stare is development. Some of them are something else entirely. Johns Hopkins Medicine describes what are called absence seizures, moments where the brain experiences a brief surge of abnormal electrical activity. During these episodes, a child stares blankly, goes completely unresponsive, and then comes back, often within 15 seconds, with no memory of what just happened. They look almost identical to normal developmental staring. The difference is critical. During a normal developmental stare, if you call your baby's name, or make a sharp sound, or enter their line of sight, they will respond. Something will shift. During an absence seizure, nothing shifts. The child does not respond to sound. Does not react to movement. Does not return your gaze. The brain is not processing. It has paused. Research published in the journal Autism and Developmental Disorders found that among children later diagnosed with autism, a measurable loss of interest in eyes begins between 2 and 6 months of age. Typically developing babies move in the opposite direction. They become more interested in eyes over time, not less. By 24 months, the gaze time of children later diagnosed with autism was approximately half that of children who were not. This shift does not happen all at once. It is gradual. And it begins earlier than most people ever think to look. So the next time your baby is staring at that corner of the ceiling, at that edge of light along the wall, at something you cannot see and cannot explain, watch what happens when you step into their line of sight. Watch what happens when you speak. If something shifts, if they redirect, if they come back to you, that is not a baby zoning out. That is a brain doing exactly what it is supposed to do. Responding. Learning. Building. But if nothing shifts, if the stare holds through sound and movement in your voice, if there is no return, that is worth paying attention to. That is worth mentioning to a doctor. Not to cause fear, but because early detection, in every case where something is wrong, changes outcomes in ways that later detection cannot. Here is what this moment actually means. That blank stare you've been watching, the one that felt empty, that felt like nothing, was never nothing. It was your baby encountering the world for the first time, one edge at a time, one flicker of light at a time. It was a brain forming 1 million connections per second, deciding which ones to keep. It was the first evidence of attention. The first sign of focus. The very beginning of a mind learning how to make sense of everything around it. That vacant gaze is not absence. It is arrival. If this changed how you see your baby, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to keep understanding the science behind the moments most people miss, subscribe. Every video here is built on real research, not guesses.